Hello again. It's been quite a while since I've last uploaded, but we are back. It's Let's Chat Movies Season 2. Welcome. Before we do get started with today's video of movies I watched in August, if you do want to skip right ahead to that, I'll leave a timestamp down below for you to skip to that, but I just wanted to give you guys a very brief explanation of why I haven't uploaded for like a year, what happened. Basically, it was a mix of a lot. I started slightly falling out of love with movies. I wasn't enjoying a lot of the movies I was watching. You know, every time I was watching a movie, I just felt like it wasn't the same. I wasn't taking the movie in. I was more just worried about, oh, what am I going to say in my review? What am I going to do for my review for this? And then I will also say that, of course, I do everything for my YouTube pretty much myself. I had my amazing co-host Sam Carrico for season 1, and shout out to him, he's the GOAT. He really helped bring me through a lot of that season, and he even actually edited the last few videos for me because I had just got into such a bad place mental health wise that I couldn't bring myself to even watch back the videos. I couldn't bring myself to edit them. I just kind of wanted to forget all about it. I guess you could say it was a bit of a hissy fit I was having because, you know, my favourite franchise was like dead in the water, and my favourite director was just being dragged everywhere. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff mentally going on privately as well. I might do a longer video on my main channel, Beam Me Up Lucas, to go in a bit more depth of what exactly happened and everything, just if you guys would be interested. But yeah, I just wanted to basically give you guys a quick note. I am okay now. I'm doing much better. I've definitely fallen back in love with movies, and surprisingly horror. I will get into a bit more on how I feel about horror in a separate video I'm going to make, because I think there's, for those of you who only just started watching me from YouTube and haven't followed me for a while and didn't follow like my blogs and reviews there, you might not know that I am a very big horror fan and always was for a very long time. It's my favorite genre of movies. So I've definitely kind of found a bit of a reconnection with horror, as you'll see from my movies I've watched this month. Now, that's kind of that basically done out of the way. So getting onto the video, I do want to of course say I did not come up with the idea for movies I watched in. I'm not exactly sure who came up with the original idea. I've stolen the idea off of two of my favourite YouTube horror channels, Possessed by Horror and Spooky Astronauts, which I will leave a link to in the description below. Definitely go and check those two out. They're amazing. They're, as I said, two of my favourite content creators on the platform right now. And yeah, with that being said, we're going to get into these picks. The way this is going to work is going to be similar to theirs. I'll have all my Letterboxd rankings here on my little notepad, and we're just going to go through them and see what movies I watched this month and what I thought. I will say I was quite surprised. I enjoyed the majority of the movies I watched this month. There are some that I didn't like, and obviously I didn't watch a ton of movies this month. Everything has been quite crazy work-wise. I currently live part-time at my work, at my dad's pub and inn, which is this place, and you will notice various different sets as I go in different rooms and stuff when I'm staying here. And then I also obviously live with my partner still, so you'll recognise that set when I'm back there and filming there. So let's get started, and the first movie I watched this month wasn't the best one. It was Hell House 3. Now, I actually thought I had seen this film for a very long time, so I just never watched it. So I was like, oh yeah, I've seen it. Turns out I hadn't. I'd seen Hell House 1 and 2, but not 3. I don't know why I thought I had seen it, but it was on Shudder, and I checked it out, and I gave it a 4 out of 10. Probably a bit generous looking back at it. I don't think I'll ever be revisiting that movie again, which is a shame because I am a big fan of Hell House 1. That's one of my all-time favourite found footage movies. And Hell House 2 is obviously not as good, but I don't think it's as bad as people thought. I still enjoyed Hell House 2. Hell House 3, on the other hand, definitely a different story. And while there are some scares in this one that work, I'm not going to go into spoilers, even though it's a bit of an old film, just in case you haven't seen it yet. The majority of it doesn't work. It's it's not the best film. It really is not. And the story in particular, if you were a fan of Hell House and the story it was building up to, I do think you need to see it for the ending. The ending is definitely, in my opinion, the best part of the film. And by ending I mean the literal scene that will play over the credits. That is the only part of the film that actually got me excited for the future of Hell House. But as I said, I am excited for the future. I'm excited for the Abaddon tapes whenever that comes out. If we do get it, I hope we do. Um, so yeah, 4 out of 10. Not the best, but it's not terrible. It was. I'm not angry I watched it, and I don't feel like it ruined the franchise. I just wasn't a big fan of this one. I think it went a bit too far in the camp direction rather than the horror direction. Now, the second movie I watched this month is one I really liked, and actually surprised me that I liked it so much. It was Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. Paranormal Activity is currently streaming on Paramount Plus here in the UK, and I'm assuming worldwide because it's their franchise. And this one was surprisingly good. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. It's not perfect, it definitely has problems. It's still a Paranormal Activity movie, and also I am one of those people. I know this is a very divisive opinion to have on Paranormal Activity, but I prefer the less is more mentality that they had for the first few films, rather than kind of showing you all the demons and everything like they do in the most recent two, Ghost Dimension. And now this one is definitely better than Ghost Dimension, though Ghost Dimension is trash. This movie is very creepy. It has a lot of very good scares. Is very well acted as well. I thought the performances were surprisingly good. And yeah, I definitely recommend this one. If you have been a fan of Paranormal Activity at all, and in particular, I will say this reminded me more of the marked ones, not necessarily story-wise, but in terms of how they kind of approach the film. It's not as kind of subdued, all in one house on security cameras. It is very much found footage, people exploring this very strange Amish village, stuff like that. And I'm sure there's probably some people who find the film slightly offensive in its representation of all this stuff. But as a horror film, I just thought it worked quite well. And then the third film we watched is I believe it's a Netflix original. I did watch it on Netflix. It's called The Discovery. This one isn't a very recent film, and it follows the story of a scientist's son. Again, no like major spoilers. This is just the plot of the movie. It follows a scientist's son whose father discovered that there is an afterlife, and this leads to a suicide epidemic. And him and his father and a group of other people all kind of try to figure out not kind of how to stop it, but try and kind of figure out what it actually is on the other side that they're going to, that people are choosing to go to, and so people can make a more informed decision of what they would like to do with it. It is obviously a very, well, I'd say it's a trigger sensitive film, but you don't, apart from one scene at the beginning, which I think is actually so well done, and that instantly hooked me in for the rest of the film, you don't really see much of that stuff. But I will say, if you are very sensitive to that, maybe just look up the plot description online or something just to check before you watch it. I gave that one an 8 out of 10, by the way. Pretty good. The ending wasn't as good, I wanted a bit more from it, but for what it was, I really enjoyed the film. The fourth film I watched is one I absolutely loved. This was actually one I watched based on watching a Possessed by Horror video, and she was raving about this movie called His House. This movie, yeah, it has some scares in it, and one in particular, kind of towards the beginning, that really got me, and it was just so well done. This movie, again, without any major spoilers, follows an immigrant family who move to the UK, and they have to deal with kind of grief, their emotions, the culture, fitting in, stuff like that, all while being tormented by, again, I'm trying not to spoil it, so by being tormented by evil presences, or maybe not even fully evil presences. I very much recommend the film. It's beautifully shot, it's amazingly acted, and the scares are genuinely really, really good in this one. Really great film. It's not perfect. I feel like it loses its steam a little bit in the middle, kind of, but the beginning and the end of this film are so good, and it genuinely provokes a very emotional response from the viewer, at least in my opinion. So I really recommend this movie. It's streaming on Netflix, I believe, as well, and it's a 9.8 out of 10 from me. Then the next movie I watched this month is a rewatch. It's one of my favourite movies of the year, one of my favourite franchises of the year, and the franchise was created by my favourite director of the year. And this movie in particular, if you've watched any of the Easter egg videos and stuff on it, you'll probably be able to understand why I love this film so much in the way it pays homage to Wes Craven, and that's Scream. Obviously the new Scream that came out this year. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but also a lot of people did. I'm definitely in the did camp. I really enjoyed this movie. It wasn't the best Scream movie by any means. I do actually prefer Scream 4 to this one. And obviously, no spoilers, but the decision they made to do what they did in that movie doesn't sit right with me. I think that was a very big mistake for them to do. It's the same mistake that Star Wars made. And I hope somehow they could rectify it, maybe with a flashback or something, I don't know. But overall, I did think the film definitely did a good job of reinventing the Scream franchise for the new generation, for a new audience, and I think it paid really nice homage to Wes Craven. Absolutely. I really dug this film. And then speaking of Wes Craven, the next film I watched, I gave Scream a 9 out of 10, by the way. The next film I watched was the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, this was also a rewatch. My favourite horror film of all time, for those who don't know. Love this movie, 10 out of 10. I don't think there's anything I can really say on it that hasn't already been said. All I can say is the reason I love it so much is I've always been fascinated by movies that deal with the dream world, dreams, sort of astral projection, lucid dreaming, combined with a slasher and a really iconic character, crazy visuals, Wes Craven's master sort of camera work and everything. Perfect movie to me. I love that movie. The next one I definitely did not like as much, and this was also one I watched based on a Possessed by Horror video, a classic horror story. This might be controversial for me not to like, but I really did not dig this movie at all. Don't get me wrong, the visuals of this movie are stunning. Visually, this movie is incredible, and I'm sure from a writing perspective it's not even that bad, but to me it was so predictable. It was so eye-rolling at times, like I was literally yelling at the screen, and so was my partner. I really did not like this film from a story perspective or a writing perspective, and even to a degree the acting I didn't think was overly great. But I will say that the visuals in this movie are amazing, and if you have Ambilight on your TV, definitely give this one a watch with that on. But overall, I think I gave this, what did I give it? A 5 out of 10. So yeah, very mid to me. It wasn't awful, it was just very, very, very mid, apart from the visuals. Everything else, you're not missing out on anything if you haven't seen the classic horror story. The next movie I watched, again, a lot of these are actually recommendations from Possessed by Horror videos, because I only started watching her channel like a month ago, and I saw all these movies they were recommending, and in their tier lists and stuff, I was like, I've not seen that, and that sounds amazing. So a lot of these will be those sort of recommendations. This one is Coherence. This movie, again, might be controversial, but I didn't like it. Well, I say I didn't like it. I didn't hate it, and I definitely liked it more than a classic horror story. I even gave it a stronger score, but overall, I just felt like the movie was quite, I don't want to say boring. It definitely wasn't boring, but because I am a big fan of slow burn horror movies, I do actually really like a good slow burn horror movie that takes its time and builds up the tension. This one, to me, didn't do a good enough job building up that tension. It just kind of kept taking its time and taking its time and taking its time, and then when it does kind of all start coming together, at first it's really cool, but then the kind of novelty of it all just wore off for me. And I will also say though, I think I half spoiled this for myself, because I googled it firsthand, and just the taglines, I mean the genre tags alone, are kind of a spoiler for this movie. So I will say, if you do want to watch it, go in as blind as possible. Go in, if this is the first time you've heard of it, just go in now. You don't need to know anything that happens in it, and you might have a much better experience than I did watching this. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Decent, not great. The next movie I watched was Incantation. This is obviously a new movie, came out on Netflix this month actually, and yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't as amazing as everyone else has made it out to be, but it definitely has its moments. It's really well shot. Again, if you have Ambilight on your TV, this is one to watch it with, 100%. And I was really actually surprised by how the story manages to pull on your emotions quite a lot. No spoilers, of course. This is a film about a mother who breaks a religious taboo, so she is then kind of sent on this Hayward journey of battling evil spirits and trying to keep them away from her daughter. And it really is an amazing movie, and they really play up the mother and daughter relationship in this, and it works so well. It's really well done. The visuals are really good. It is found footage, so if you're not a fan of that type of handheld sort of camera style movement, you probably won't like it very much. Also, I believe it's called trypophobia, the fear of I'm sure you've heard by now. So I guess slight spoiler warning, but it's not really a spoiler. There is a scene where someone has holes all over their like body, face. That's definitely kind of the standout scene from this film that everyone's been talking about. And if you are very not okay with stuff like that, I would recommend. Well, people keep saying to skip the movie. I don't think you need to skip the movie. You can just skip that scene. The rest of the movie is so good. I really feel like you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you've been interested in the movie and not watching it just because of that one scene. I do think you'll be relatively okay with the rest of the film, and it's a genuinely really well done film. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I can't imagine it will be in my top 10 of the year by the end of the year, but I do think it will be around the top movies of the year. This one will not be. Bob's Burgers the movie. Of course, it's not a horror movie, or is it? Because this movie, I was actually very excited for this. I know a lot of people from the get-go were like, why are they making a movie of Bob's Burgers? This is going to be terrible. I love the show, and I've felt like they could do a very good job with the movie. And I would say the first 10-20 minutes are quite good. They're very like almost Simpsons movie-esque. But then as the movie goes on, it's just kind of boring. There's not really any laughs. The animation is just that they tried to do the Simpsons movie thing again of kind of doing the 3D shadows on them and everything, and it just did not work for this style of animation. It does not work. It looks so weird and it's so jolting. That also took me out of the film. And then also it's a musical, and obviously Bob's Burgers does have a lot of musical moments in it, but it just did not appeal to me, this movie, at all. I just found it quite boring, quite bland. I gave it 3.5 out of 10. It has a couple of laughs in there towards the beginning, like I said, but once it kind of gets to the halfway point, it just loses all its steam as it goes. So 3.5 out of 10 for that. And then the last thing I watched in August, this isn't a movie, but this is a TV show, and it is horror, and it's the new Resident Evil show. I hadn't watched it yet, based on everyone's reviews, because everyone was saying it was so terrible. And obviously I have not finished it yet. I'm about to start episode 3, but I will say I actually really have enjoyed it so far. I don't necessarily get the negativity. I'm guessing it probably gets worse towards the end of the season, and that's why people have been saying that. Because the first 2 episodes so far have been really, really good, actually. They were very thrilling, I guess is the word. They were very action-packed, and I will say, if you were a fan, like I was, of the kind of chaotic mess of the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil movies, you'll probably like this one. You'll probably like the show. So that's kind of all the movies I've watched in August. This is my first video coming back for season 2. I will be seeing you guys again, do not worry. We're here to stay this time. I'm not going to be giving myself too big expectations though, like I have done in the past. I think that very much hindered me, because I am only one person doing all of this. As you can see, I'm filming, I don't even have much technology to do this with. I'm filming it on my iPhone with my earphones, but you know, as things get better, I'm sure the production values will increase as well. But for now, this is what we've got. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, check out Possessed by Horror and Spooky Astronauts and Sam Carrico of the Film Fan Club. They will all be linked down below for you to go and check out. They're all amazing content creators. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.